Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang, and welcome back to Roll Mangging for our Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign. Alright, so when we left off, we were about to leave the town of Gold Lake in the middle of the night after a gnoll attack to go track down the other gnolls, because we believed that they were in possession of this stone that a bunch of us were looking for. Okay. And we had Mert there, who was, he hates gnolls, hates the ideas of gnolls, everything about them, and he was all set to go with us, but he couldn't make it to this session. So it was kind of funny because his character's like, yes, let's go hunt these gnolls right now, and then we start this session and we're just supposed to be like, oh, he just passes out or something. But now he did tag along with us for a little while with Ren controlling him. But we were joined this time by my good buddy Ziggy, who will be hopefully joining us for the rest of the campaign, and he rolled up a wizard named Zeratul, which is his kind of go-to basic wizard character name. So Zeratul. Okay, so we set out from the town, middle of the night, with Benny leading the way, tracking these gnolls. And we followed them into the nearby woods. And after like an hour or an hour and a half, we finally found like smoke nearby. So of course I charged ahead. That's what Ovum does. And we found the remains of a camp. Very small, basic camp. Like, literally, it was just like a campfire that was just dying down. Like, it was extinguished like 20 minutes ago. And so I was kind of disappointed. I thought it would be something to kill because I need more XP. I need all the XP I can get, man. I gotta get level 3. That's I guess one of my complaints about 5th edition is really nothing interesting happens with your character until you're level 3, and I think I talked about that already. But it's really just like I'm not Ovum. I don't have my enmity. That's what he is. That's what he does, and I don't have it. I'm not Ovum yet, and it's make me level 3. But alas, I am not. And so we poked around the camp. And I wanted to find like another trail or something. So I rolled my perception or something, investigate. I don't know what I rolled, but I crit, because why not? And so I found some more tracks leading to another area. So I charged off in that direction. And there we found a bigger camp. And there were figures sleeping on the ground. So I gave one a good swift kick, which could have been like a child, and I like snapped his neck or something. You never know. And that's if you have a sadistic DM. That's the kind of shit he pulls. That's Call of Cthulhu. That's where you do stuff like that. But no, it was a gnoll. It was a dead gnoll. Oh. And so we looked at these dead gnolls, and Seneth was like, what caused their death? So I rolled my medicine. I rolled like a 2. And I'm just like, a sudden loss of life. And we couldn't find any distinguishing marks. No shots, no cuts, strangulation, nothing like that. So I thought maybe poison. Who's to say? Maybe some sort of magical death. I don't know. Could be. But, so we looked through the camp, and at the far end we found a cage. And in the cage was a human, like a big muscular human guy, and a elf. And so I was ready to bash down the cage, but Seneth was like, hold on, and he picked the lock. I'm like, whoa, I don't know about this lock picking stuff. That's not really what we do here. So we opened up the cage, and he poked at the elf, and the elf woke up, and it was Zeratul. Okay. And so we had a quick chat with Zeratul, who didn't really know much Apparently he was performing an anthropological study on the gnolls. And he tried to, like, you know, integrate with their camp, with their culture. And he was talking about all this kind of stuff, you know, about how he was fascinated by their culture and stuff. And so you can just, you know, think about Ovum listening to this. And so I'm just like, my friends, I'm not sure if I trust this one. And Seneth is like, what I think he is saying is that he was trying to better understand the gnolls so as to better destroy them. And I'm like, is this true, stranger? And Ziggy's like, yes, that's about right. And I'm like, then I can commend such actions. And so yeah, he got captured, and that was pretty much it. He doesn't know how they died or anything like that. And I ended up kicking the big guy, also sleeping. He finally woke up. He said his name was like Browlin or Bolin or something like that. I think it was Bolin, Bone Crusher. Bolin Bone Crusher, something like that. And he was not really, he was a mercenary. He was hired by somebody to transport crates or something. Somebody was working with the gnolls, so he was working with the gnolls, and he knew like their inner workings and stuff like that. And he was doing it for money, man. And he annoyed the wrong people, and that he got thrown into the cage. He didn't really elaborate. And so there were some crates next to the cage. There was a big crate on wheels and then two smaller crates. And so I immediately crowbarred open the big crate. And inside, we found a statue of a dwarf that Ovum, for some reason, recognized. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he just felt a connection to this dwarf's face. And in the dwarf's mouth, he had a fish. And Seneth determined that the statue was made entirely out of pure platinum, which means this thing is basically worth an airship. Yeah, I mean, it's Golk. We all know it's Golk, but Ovum couldn't put his finger on it. And so, okay, this is Golk encased in platinum. There was a time when Golk did get encased in metal. I'm not sure if it was platinum, but we got him out of that. I think it was through one of the other 9 divines as part of my wish or something. Like he got freed from that because it's Golk, so Ziggy wanted Golk free. I'm referring back to the Artemis campaign, if you're not aware. Hopefully everyone watching this is aware of that. So yeah, he did get encased in metal. I guess it could have been platinum, because why not? It's cool. And, the fish in the mouth is a reference to an ability he had where he could breathe. I think it was he could breathe. He didn't need to breathe or something, or he could swim indefinitely as long as he had a fish in his mouth, something like that. It was a long time ago. I'm glad Ren remembered that stuff. That's crazy. Yeah, so okay, there's a statue of Golk here. That's great. And so I was immediately like, this is a holy relic, my friends. This is this is something connected with Lord Artemis. And Seneth is just, sitting there staring at this freaking treasure chest, basically. The most money he's ever seen. Pure platinum, holy shit. Good luck getting that away from Ovum. So we opened up the other smaller crates. One just had food, and then the other had like a whole bunch of trinkets that they stole and looted. And so they were rummaging around in there, and I had no interest in that. I found my prize right here. But they got some minor trinkets. There's a... It was very Numenera-esque, actually. That's what it reminded me of. There's a chart somewhere. It'll be here. Yeah, there's a chart. You roll a D100, and there's a whole bunch of odd and end trinkets and stuff like that. Like a pyramid of sticky black incense that smells very bad, a vial of dragon blood, a needle that never bends, a tiny silver bell without a clapper, you know, just weird little things you can throw around. The Numenera stuff is way cooler, of course, but that's what it reminded me of. What they got doesn't really matter. Okay, so I asked if the crate that was sitting on this little thing that had wheels, if it had a rope to it. And he's like, yeah, it's all ready for transportation. I'm like, perfect. Wrap that rope around my waist. We're ready to go. We will lead this holy relic into battle to empower us. Oh, gosh. It's fun playing as Ovum, I'm going to be real honest. It's just a blast. Because it's just like, I know at any point, all this bullshit will happen, and Ovum will just die. Without any form of divine protection or any of that shit. He'll just be, you know, another dumb D&D character that rushes headlong into a stupid situation and dies. I know it'll happen, but the journey to get to that point is a whole lot of fun. Yeah, believe me, I already have my next character planned out. Trust me. But, in the meantime, Ovum is cool. They kind of protested this a little bit. You know, they didn't agree with the idea of me dragging a statue behind me. But I don't care what they say. This is a holy relic. I'm not going to leave it here, so it's coming with me. And, I'm not sure who it was, but somebody mentioned that they had... yeah, it was probably Benny. That their tracks led further to the north. And so I'm like, onward we go! And Bone Crusher tried to slip away from us. He didn't want anything to do with this. And so we caught him trying to slip away. And he's like, do you really need me to stay here with you? And Roella was like, I will leave it in Ovum's hands. And so Ovum's just like, you have commiserated with the foul gnolls, and as penance, you will work with us to eliminate the rest of these creatures. He's just like, because you're not gonna argue with me. If you run, I'll catch you. I mean, I'm not full Avenger mode yet, but I can still work some magic. Yeah, so we headed out, and I was pulling this statue behind me, made of pure platinum. It's probably heavy. It's on wheels, but, you know. And so Ren has me rolling athletics to see how well of a pace I keep up. And I roll like a 25. No big deal. You know, it is what it is. Because that's what needs to be done. And so we pull it northwards. We go northwards. And eventually we come across like another clearing. And this one, he gave a lengthy description for this area. And sometimes, I'm sure this happens to anybody playing D&D. Sometimes, the theater of the mind and all that, your imagination, they'll give a description for a room and whatever, and you can picture it right away. You can see where everything that they're describing is situated in the room. And, that's the beauty of it, is that everybody's image in their head is a little different. But it all works, So they'll say it and you get it right away. But sometimes they'll describe a room or a situation and your mind is blank. Like you don't get an image in your head. It's just kind of words coming out of their mouth and you're just like, I don't know what I'm looking at. That's kind of what this clearing was. I still don't know how to describe it to you because I don't know what it looks like. I can give a basic impression, like... This is terrible. This is not... I know I rarely blank on a description of an area, but... It was like a clearing, and there was like 4 groupings of stones scattered around. But then they were like not stones. They were like pillars, but then they were also not pillars. They were like... If Ren watches this video, he can put a description in a comment you guys can read. But I can't... I don't know what to say. But... they poked around one of these sets of stones, and they ended up coming across a set of doors. I don't know how. I swear I don't know how. I just went along with it. I was just like, I approached the doors. I'm like, I don't know where these doors came from, but I will approach the doors. It doesn't really matter to you. The bottom line is we found some doors. And, well, when we got to the clearing, the tracks ended for the gnolls. So we assumed they had to go through these doors. Otherwise, they teleported somewhere. So we see these doors. They open them up a crack. Like, Zeratul and Roella, they opened the doors. Because I think they were, like, waiting for me to just push forward. But I was still trying to just picture this clearing. So I was silent this whole time. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. And then I just hear them talking about, like, these doors are open and wide for like, one person to walk through at a time. And they're like, he's not going to be able to fit the statue through. And that's when I jumped in. I'm like, what? I will push this statue through. I will open these doors further. And so I push the doors open further, and I'm like, aha! And I waltz in with the statue. And I'm like, alright, let's just move on. And so they're just like, you're entering into this little underground cave system following gnolls, and I've just got this cart attached to me with a big platinum statue. Holy relic, man. You can't leave that behind. Roella wanted me to, like, leave it outside the cave in the clearing and just, like, nobody will touch it. I'm like, how... Even if I didn't believe this was a holy relic, how dumb of a character would I have to be to believe that I could leave this platinum statue in a clearing in a woods infested with gnolls and think nobody would touch it? I'm not sure I've ever played a character that would do such a thing. Artemis wouldn't do that. Fred wouldn't do that. Ovum wouldn't do that. Katow wouldn't do that. I don't play many characters, do I? Yeah, I don't make many original characters now. My next character will be original, I promise. Anyways, that was not going to happen. So we charged in. And so we went through some tunnels. And we ended up getting to a room that it was kind of a rectangular room. At the far end was an altar. And there were 2 alcoves on each side. So 4 total. In front of each alcove on the ground was like a glowing symbol. But one of the symbols was not glowing, so really only 3 glowing symbols. And then in each of the alcoves, there was a scarecrow. Why? I don't know. And so, myself and everybody else assumed this was a trap. You know, when you walk past the glowing symbol, something's going to shoot out at you, whatever. And so, Ovum doesn't really care. Like, Ovum needs to be built as a character that can withstand a trap. You know, that's what he needs to be. And the Ovum that I got going on, he can withstand a trap. Unless Ren's going to be a real dick about something. In which case, that's, you know, that's the end result no matter what, is Ovum's going to die at some point. So, I'm not fretting it. So, I just charged in. But Roella wanted to apparently save me a little trouble. So, the trinket that she got from the little crate was a can that didn't have an opening, but it sounded like there was liquid in it. Yeah, okay. So she rolled that across the room in front of me to maybe trigger something. the likelihood of that triggering anything is very slim. So I didn't care. And it didn't trigger anything, and I didn't trigger anything. I walked right up to the altar. And I checked it out, and there was some indentations, and there was also a handle. And I was like, handles are meant to be pulled. So, of course, I yank on it, and there's like a noise, and then 3 of the 4 scarecrows step forward, and we roll initiative. I should mention that when we first entered into the room, I fired a crossbow bolt at one of the scarecrows, and it didn't do anything. I wonder if Ren counted that damage. I'm not even sure I rolled damage. I should have rolled damage, because, I mean, that did damage. Ren. Huh? Doesn't matter. And so we entered into combat. Glorious combat with these scarecrows. And I rolled a shitty initiative, which is a bummer. It's really swingy in 5th edition. In 4th edition, if you really want, you can bump up your initiative to crazy levels. Where, 9 times out of 10, you're going first. Or something like that. Like, you really have to botch a roll to go last. Because, you can get a lot of initiative bonuses. In 5th edition, really for us, for our characters right now, the only bonus to initiative you get is your dex mod. Which is anywhere from like -1 to +5. And you just add it to a d20, and that's your initiative roll. So really, there's not much rhyme or reason to it at these early levels. It's just whatever you roll on a d20 is pretty much what you end up getting. I mean, later on, you can get some bonuses. Like, you can take, I think there's like 1 feat that boosts your initiative by 5. And then it says miscellaneous bonuses. I don't know what else boosts your initiative. Hell if I know. Yeah, alert gives you +5 bonus. Maybe there's something else. But that's a separate point. So I don't love the initiative system because it's just like, it's such... It's just proof of the problem with the D20 system, really. Where it's just a roll of a D20, and every result on the die has a 5% chance of coming up. And you are just a slave to the result. I would say, I guess, D&D in general, that's my problem with it, is the D20. Which is, it's an iconic thing. Dungeons and Dragons is never not going to have a D20 around it. That is what it is. But there's another system that I was looking at a while back when I was looking around for systems called Dungeon World, I think it's called. Uses a 3d6 system, I think. Where if you roll 3d6 and if you get like an 11 or a 12 or higher or something like that, it's a success. And so with a multiple D6 system, you have what they call bell curve probability. I'm going on such a tangent here, really. I'll sum this up because it applies to a lot of board games as well. And I was telling this to my family members when we were playing Machi Koro. I was like, have you ever heard of bell curve probability? But okay, when you roll 2d6, the most likely result is a 7. Because the number 7 is the result of the most number of combinations of the 2 dice. So a 3 and a 4 and a 3, a 5 and a 2, 2 and a 5, 6 and a 1, 1 and a 6. You get it. And then 8 and 6 are the second most likely, and then 9 and 5, and so on and so forth, with 2 and 12 being the least likely. And so there are, it's a curve, right? Because down here, the 7 is the most likely. But then up here, the 12 and the 2 are the least likely. So you can count on that. There's differing probabilities. Whereas with a D20, everything is just boom, 5% chance. Whether a 1, 10, 20, whatever, it's all the same. And that makes a big difference. It really does. And so when you're just starting out playing something like D&D, you don't care about any of that. It's a D20. You feel awesome when you roll a 20. You feel like shit when you roll a 1. And really, it's still like that. But you don't care about the probability of anything like that. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, initiative, right. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't love that. I mean, initiative is like the biggest problem that I've seen as far as that, but the skill system is also, you can't jack up your skills, so you're kind of a slave to the D20. Like, I rolled multiple crits during this session for skill checks, like for history and perception and stuff, and I'm not trained in them, and I have like +0 to the roll, but hey, I rolled a crit, give me an awesome success, which is cool, but it's also like, I think I've talked enough on that subject. I will move on. You get all my points, I hope. So anyways, I rolled like a 7 initiative. Which is why I'm complaining, is because I went last. Okay. So yeah, I went last in the fight, and so the fight ensued. And we discovered that they were vulnerable to fire, which is pretty nice because Roella is a sorcerer and she has the Firebolt cantrip, which means when you're in 5th edition, if you're vulnerable to something, you take double damage from that source. So she rolled a 1d10 on a hit and then doubled it. So for her first attack, she rolled a 10. So she did 20 damage to this thing and set it on fire. That's big at first level. I mean, sure, I could do something like that, but, I mean, I'm ovum. But, no, it was that was a pretty beastly hit. And then I came up behind it a little later and smacked it for, like, 13 damage, and it didn't go down, and I was like, holy shit. I think these things had 35 health, which is a decent number at level 1, level 2. And there were 3 of them. And, yeah, that's the other thing about D&D, where, you know, everybody's a combat character. You can't not be a combat character. I was wondering if they would change that for this edition, where maybe you could be just, like, a non-combat character. But no, it's still Dungeons & Dragons. You can't not... You'd have to really fuck up your character to make a non-combat character. But then it's like, all the other people in your group are going to be combat characters. You're going to do combat. I've heard about people playing D&D where you just do it like Game of Thrones or something, where it's all political struggles and banquets and, you know, role-playing. But it's like, play a different system. Play Fate. Which I guess kind of contradicts my own point. No, it doesn't. I need to stop going on tangents. Alright. So, yeah, we went through combat, and Seneth uses a rapier, which is piercing damage. And these scarecrows are resistant to slashing and piercing damage from non-magical sources. And resistant means they take half damage. Ren counted my Orc Slayer as a magic weapon, which is interesting, because it's not a +1 sword. It's only +1 against orcs. I'm not sure if we're ever going to encounter orcs in this campaign. But it counts as a magic weapon, which means I did normal damage to these guys. I was like, cool. So yeah, we made pretty short work of the scarecrows. Roella took a bit of damage. I think like 6 points. Which wasn't... I mean, that probably hurt. And then Zeratul also took 6 points of damage out of his 7 health. So he almost died. Well, you almost fell unconscious. You probably wouldn't have died. And so we killed off the 3, and then the one that was malfunctioning, or whatever. Like the rune wasn't glowing. It didn't do anything. I went over there and I just cut it to ribbons. I didn't care. And then Zaradul was in pain, and he asked me for healing, and I did the biggest dick move that a paladin or cleric can do. Like, you read about these people that say stuff like what I am about to say, and you're just like, God, what a dick. And I said, I only offer healing to those that follow my faith. And it's such a terrible thing for your cleric or paladin to tell you, because it's just like, fuck you, man. Like, come on. We're a group here. But it's like, my healing is really shit. I'm never gonna prepare a healing spell, so all I have is lay on hands. And yeah, I could have recovered 5 hit points for him, but I wanted to save it for me, because I knew I'm gonna get into bigger problems later. So it was kind of a dick thing, but it was also a really dick thing. But Benny was like, I know some medicine, I'll patch you up. So he walks over and patches him up back to full health. Okay. I'm not even sure if that's a thing in this game. I gotta look up what the medicine skill can do, but I don't think... Actually, no! Hold on. This is kind of another tangent, isn't it? There's a healer feat. Yeah, so one of the feats you can get, which you have to be level 4 to get a feat, is Healer, which says you're an able physician. Benny, the drunk tracker. And this lets you spend 1 use of a healer's kit to restore 1d6 plus 4 hit points to it. So, I think Ren just fudged that, because he didn't want Ziggy to die right away. Which is okay, but it's just like, holy shit. Why would we ever leave Benny behind? So yeah, I'm not really defending my actions as Ovum. I'm just role-playing. So sue me, man! Anyways, so he also patched up Roella for like 2 hit points, which wasn't great. And I went over and I yanked on the handle again on the altar. Because it's not going to do the same thing twice. And it didn't. It opened up a part of the wall behind the altar. Go figure. And so we went down that path, with the statue trailing behind me. And we got to a split in the tunnel. And Ziggy, like, as the words entered into my mind, I heard Ziggy say it over Skype. Let's split up. And I was immediately like, I agree. Because, like, I will tell you, and other people that make videos, such as Spoonie, will tell you to never split the party. But not whenever I play, you gotta split the party. Because it's just too much fun. Unless I'm playing as Artemis. If I'm playing as Artemis, I have to play intelligently. I know it's a bad option, so I will not split. But pretty much any other character, I'm just playing for fun. And the more fun option is to split the party. And I actually learned, this campaign is Roella's first time playing D&D. And I don't know if she's watching these videos or not, but she is playing better than any other first-timer that I've played with, as far as I can remember. I really gotta commend her. She's good. I don't know if the other guy, if this is his first campaign, but they are both doing really well. I commend them both. But they don't know about the no splitting the party rule. Or maybe they did know, but they didn't protest too much, because, you know, both Ziggy and I were just immediately like, let's split the party. And I was like, I'm going to go left, Ziggy's going right, who's joining up with us? And so Seneth went with me, because he's not going to leave that statue out of his eyesight. And Benny went with us. And so Roella didn't really want to go with Ziggy because they were both magic users. And I agree, that's not optimal. But also, splitting the party is not optimal, so it doesn't matter. So she ended up going with Ziggy, and Bone Crusher went with them. So an even split, it's perfect. And we went our separate ways. So we arrive in front of a wooden door, which I promptly kick off its hinges. And we enter into a dark room. Now, we both have dark vision, but apparently this room was long enough that we couldn't see the far end. And it was carpeted. And so there was we could see some shelvings on a far wall. So I'm like, all right, let's go check out the shelving. Obviously, this is a trap room. Rooms like this exist to be trapped. And so I knew as soon as I stepped on the carpet, you know what I actually thought? I actually thought Ren may have watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie. That's what I thought of immediately when he said carpet. If you haven't seen Dungeons and Dragons movie, at one point near the end, one of the Wayne's brothers, is it Marlin? It might be Marlin. He sneaks into this treasure room or somebody's room. It doesn't matter. And he steps onto a carpet and it turns into quicksand. And so he gets sucked into the carpet. That's what I thought would happen. But then I was like, I'm not sure if Ren would ever watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I'm a big fan of it, but that's mostly nostalgia talking. Anyways, so I step onto the carpet and I hear kind of a squeal, he described it as. Some sort of a noise that's not good, like a noise of pain, I guess. And the Seneth is just like, what the hell was that? And I'm just like, it must be evil, stomp it out! Okay, so it turns out to be many, many bugs. Swarms of large bugs. So I was right, you gotta stomp it out. And so Seneth, he went first, and he climbed up on top of the crate, on top of the statue crate. Don't do that. That's disrespectful. And he threw down a vial of oil onto the bugs to coat them all in oil because he wants to set them on fire. First I yelled out to him to get off of that statue. And then I realized that, my boot was not big enough to handle this kind of threat. So I did the next best thing, which is a body slam. So I rolled for the body slam. Of course I hit. And I rolled damage. I rolled max damage. So I killed a whole bunch of bugs with my body slam. Seneth, I finally got hit. So I got bit by some bugs. And they did 6 damage, which is quite a bit for non-crit. They just barely hit my AC, and they did 6 damage out of my 20 health, so I was not worried. But that was the first time I've been hit in this campaign, and it was to bugs. That's kind of weak, man. That's pretty weak. So Seneth set a group of bugs on fire, and then I was like, okay, so I'm on the ground, got all these bugs around me. You just got to start rolling. Just start rolling. You'll squish them. And that's what I did, and I squished some. And then Seneth hopped down, he stabbed a few with his rapier, and they were done. No problem. And I'm just covered in bug guts, but I don't care. And Seneth is kind of exclaiming that I just body slammed a bunch of bugs and rolled around in them. But, I did what needed to be done. And I'll do it again. So we go over and we check out the shelving, and really there's not much in this room. The only thing in this room is of importance is a set of keys. And so I'm just like, I have little use for keys in my time. And so Seneth grabs the keys. And we start heading back. Okay, so the other group, they got to their door, which they just open. They enter into kind of like a cavern. like a much more open room. And in the middle is a sleeping creature. It's an owlbear. And they also find out that it has some younglings, some chicks, some owlbear chicks, I guess, kind of chirping nearby. So this must be the mother and her young. And so they sit there and they kind of discuss this situation in front of them. And there's room to sneak around the owlbear to get to the other side. But Zeratul apparently quickly picked up on the traits that this Ovum character possesses. I don't know how he learned about me so quickly, but he didn't think stealth would be the option that would happen. He said that as soon as Ovum discovered this creature in our path, it would be slaughtered. He's pretty much right, but... And so, like... Even if you convinced me to not kill it and to try and sneak around it, keep in mind, I'm wearing heavy chainmail, which already gives me disadvantage on stealth. And I'm dragging a statue behind me, made of platinum. I don't think stealth is going to work even if I wanted it to, which I don't. So they're just like, what choice do they have? So they're just going to go back and discuss this with Ovum and see what happens. So we meet up, they tell me about this owlbear, and I'm just like, so this creature is impeding our path. They're like, yep. Like, then we will slaughter it in the name of Artemis, if that is his will. And so I just start charging forward. And Roella tries to get ahead of me. She tries to outrun me, so... We did a roll-off of athletics. So we both rolled athletics to see who could beat who. I got disadvantage on the roll because I'm dragging a statue behind. I still beat her. And she rolled a 16. Come on, you're not going to out-athletics Ovum. Come on. But Benny just out-sprinted us both. I didn't even get a choice in the matter. I rolled like an 18, and Ren's just like, no, Benny just outruns you. That's called DM intervention, where you don't really get an option because the DM's going to tell you what's up. Most of the times I fight this as actively as possible, but this time I was like, okay. And so Benny gets there ahead of us. Well, actually, Ziggy fired a ray of frost at Benny as we were running, and I was like, oh shit. Because if you remember, Ovum still thinks that Benny is like one of Artemis's chosen pawns, I guess. Servants, if you will. Benny is important to Ovum still. You just attacked one of his like, Ovum will kick your ass. I will turn around and cut you. And Ziggy has 7 HP. Yeah, I literally cannot... If I hit him, which I would, I could not do less than 10 damage. It's impossible for me to do less than 10 damage. Because of one of the abilities I have. So yeah, that would not be good. In fact, yeah, I could kill him in one hit. Not knock him unconscious. I could kill him for massive damage. Because you kill them outright if you do enough damage in one hit to take them to their negative health, maximum health. So that would be -7 for him. So I would have to do 14 damage. And my max from a non-crit is 16. If I crit him, then, it's done. That's 5d6. Whatever. But the point is, he missed the Ray of Frost. And so I was just like, Ovum probably thinks you were trying to get a head start on attacking the vicious owlbear. So I did that partly because that might be what Ovum thinks, and partly because I don't want to slaughter Ziggy. Jeez, that was foolhardy, and he fired the Ray of Frost, and then afterwards I was like, oh shit, Ovum thinks Benny's pretty important, and Ziggy's just like, oh. But he wanted to take it back. But no, he missed, fortunately. Okay, so we get there. Benny gets there first, and he just turns around and he's like, hold on. And so, I'm not insane, alright? I'm not a barbarian. I'm not just gonna rush forward in a frenzy. If somebody that I, care about or believe is important tells me to hold on, I'll give it a minute. But if he gets attacked suddenly, obviously I'm going to rush forward. And so I was like, alright, I'll hold on. And so Benny goes to the owlbear, and he rolls like some animal handling shit, and he calms the owlbear down. Like he's the freaking owlbear whisperer. Apparently he rolled like an 18 or 19 or something. He rolled high, because if he didn't, he would have died. But, yeah, so he just calmed it down, and we walked past it, and that was it. I was a little disappointed, because XP! An owlbear? I don't even know how much XP that would be worth. A lot. I don't have the monster manual. I don't own it, so I couldn't check. I might be able to look it up, but that probably is going to take way more time than I need to. So, yeah, we just kind of walked past. It was a little anticlimactic, a little boring. I wasn't crazy about it. So we went on into the next room, and so we discovered a room with a bunch of like inscriptions and murals on the wall and stuff like that, and then at the far end there was like a dais, something like that. Like a platform, basically, like a raised platform. And so we looked at all the inscriptions, and yeah, I think here was where I rolled like a crit for my history or something like that. And it was just like, I don't know anything about this. I can't suddenly just realize what language this is written in. But I ignored every other symbol and image on the wall except for one. And I'm betting you can guess what that image was. That's right. The symbol of Artemis, baby. And it's just like, how can people ignore this shit, man? This is like, it's on my chest, it's Artemis, it's here, it's in this book that I got. You can't ignore this stuff. But yeah, The others, a couple of them rolled pretty well, and they realized that this is like something to do with one of the gods or something in this system. Or Eidolons or something is what he called it. I ignore how it all works as a player, because as a character I ignore how it all works. So I gotta be in character here. So I don't know how any of it works. Called it like, it was something to do with wind, and it was called Garuda, which I think is like Final Fantasy or Digimon. Because I remember Garudamon, so maybe it's probably something with Japanese, I don't know. But yeah, all I cared about was that one symbol. And so they eventually concluded that this is like a teleportation chamber to another temple. To a temple to this Garuda god. And so that is perhaps how the gnolls escaped. And so I stepped onto the dais, I still don't know how to pronounce that word. And I said out loud, I was like, Lord Artemis, if it is your will, teleport me to a far-off plane to pursue my enemies. And nothing happened. Hey, here's Boogle. Remember him? He's still around. And, yeah, nothing happened. And so we kind of were looking around, and they found like an indentation in the platform. And, oh, an owlbear ain't shit, man. I could have handled that. Okay, it does quite a bit of damage. But I could have killed that myself. Well, anyways. So they found a big indentation. And of course I tried punching it. It didn't do anything. Trust me, guys, I tried. You don't have to worry. You never have to worry. I'll punch it if I have to. One of these times it'll work. And so what... I think I mentioned this. In the first session, when they were in that house, they found that notebook, and they also found an orb, which I thought might have something to do with, like, the bag, you know, something like that. And so they distracted Benny, because they didn't want Benny to know they have his orb. And she put it in there. And Ren made her roll 1d 10,000. 1d 10,000. So as soon as, you know, he had her roll, I was like, okay, you know, this is the bag. There's got to be a better term that we can use now, because it's been a bag, a cube, a book. It was a book at one point, and now it's an orb. So the Golk's thing, I know, there's a term for it. I don't know what I want to call it. But 1d 10,000. The classic bag, I mean, the original bag had 100, which was boring and lame. The version we all love and know is 1,000. And I thought that was completely adequate. Ren apparently did not think so. He bumped it up to 10,000. Insanity. I would never have thought about doing it. Because it just doesn't... I've yet to see all the 1,000 effects, you know? And I think there's plenty of crazy shit in there. I mean, the original list that I curved it from had 10,000, but so much of it was just dumb and stupid and irrelevant and just nonsensical. It just didn't work. So I cut it down, and we have a good 1,000 one. So I don't know what he's got on that 10,000 list. Sheesh. I'm impressed that he went that far. But, so she rolled on the 10,000 list, and then he made her roll a 1d4, and then he's just like, okay, nothing seems to happen. Which is the worst. You don't want that for a bag effect. That means it will strike when you least expect it. And so I was just like, oh, that's a nice orb you got there. And she was just like, shh. And she hid it from sight, you know, because Benny was like, huh? And so she pulled it out and she put it back in her bag, and that was it. And so we kind of just sat around for a little bit trying to figure this out. I wanted to smash the thing. And then Bone Crusher finally spoke up. He's like, you need a different orb. And I'm just like, different from the one she put in there? He's like, yeah, they use a black one. Because he had hung out with these gnolls, so he knew what they did, I guess. So apparently they used a black orb of the same size, and when they put it in there, it like enveloped the platform in blackness, and they got teleported away. And I was like, this thing may be tainted. And so they were just, you know, there's like, he's like, they only got the one black orb, so I don't know where you're gonna get another one. And so somebody mentioned that maybe they'll come back through at some point. And I was like, aha! I will lay wait in ambush. And so I got into position, ready to strike. And I think Seneth was like, I have an idea, but we must go back outside. And I was like, no, I'm waiting in ambush. So him, Roella, and Bone Crusher left. They went back outside. And Benny, Zeratul, and I, we waited. Poised. Like a snake. So they went back outside, and they went to another cluster of rocks or something. And Seneth was like poking around, and he's like, "What do you think about this, Bone Crusher?" And then he was like, "Well, what if I just do this?" And he put like his hand on something, and it opened up to another tunnel. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention again. And so he was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so they all went down that tunnel. And so they went winding around, and finally they got to some lever or something, I don't remember. And it opened up. And so then Ren is like, "Ovum, you suddenly see the back wall of this room start sliding open." And it's so perfectly in character, I know. Ovum's just like, "Ah, the ambush! You bastards!" And he charges forward with his sword. And so Ren's like, "Alright, roll perception to see if you notice who you're attacking." Completely botched the roll. I rolled like a 2. It's beautiful. She's like, "You have no idea who you're attacking." And I'm like, "Alright, I'm swinging." So I roll my attack. I roll like a 25. Of course. It's got to be perfect. And so he's like, "Alright, roll damage." I roll like 13. It's awesome. Of course, I had to roll high damage. But remember, I can't roll lower than 10. So no matter what, it's going to hurt. And he's like, "Oh my god." So he looked up the stats for like a regular human or something like that. And yeah, I killed Bone Crusher in one hit. What of it? What of it, Bone Crusher? And so the others are just like, and I'm just like, "This was Artemis's will. May he be taken to the gates in peace." I guess I would do like a symbol like this or something in the air instead of this. We'll do this. And they're just like, and so as soon as I said, something about Artemis and going in peace and something like that, Ziggy decided he's had enough. So he busted out his trump card at level 1, and he used the sleep spell. And it's indiscriminate with how it works. It's just you pick a target point, and every creature within 20 feet of that has a potential to fall asleep. And I don't know how it was in older editions, because I didn't really play them. But you roll 5d8, and that's the number of hit points of creatures you can put to sleep. And it goes in ascending order, so I'm like, oh shit. He might just put everybody else to sleep, because I have a lot of HP. But elves and half-elves, or maybe just half-elves, I don't remember. Probably both. They cannot be put to sleep by magical means. So it is completely ineffective on them. So I'm like, okay, well there's Benny. And Ren's just like, Benny doesn't fall asleep. And I'm like, fucking DM intervention. He might have more health than me, I guess. Benny's just like a god, I don't know. He can do anything. He's Gulk! He's Nyarlathotep, I don't know. So yeah, I fall asleep. I'm like, alright. It doesn't really bother me I fall asleep, because it's for 1 minute. And either they kill me, which, again, I plan for, it's going to happen at some point. Either they kill me, or I wake up and I'm killing somebody. And it'll be exciting. So I fall asleep, and they immediately just start discussing, just like, oh shit, he's gonna be angry. I'm sure some of them were thinking, like, how do we kill him in one hit without him hurting us? But Ren goes to me, he's like, you get a vision when you fall asleep. And I'm like, yes. And I'm in front of the throne of Lord Artemis, and he is speaking to me. And he tells me that I have done well so far. But the stone is outside of my grasp at this point, and I must travel far to the east to this temple to retrieve it. I will do so. And then he tells me about the statue. And he says it is not a statue. It is really an encasement for his dear friend, Lord Gulk. And it is my duty to find a way to free him. And I'm just like, I will do so without tire, my lord. And that was pretty much it. And so finally I woke up. And I fell asleep standing. I didn't fall over. I stood straight up and was put asleep. So they didn't tie me up. They didn't hit me. They didn't really do anything. And I just woke up. And they were real nervous about what I was going to say. But I was just like, my friends, I received a vision. And Senneth continued the bullshit. He's like, you were bathed in golden light and put into a trance. And I'm like, I know. I received divine information. And that was just perfect because it was like, I don't have to hurt any of these people because I don't really want to hurt them. I don't have to know that I was put to sleep. Ovum thinks that he was just blasted with a vision. Like, just right there. And Senneth was right there to pick up on it. So that was perfect. So I told them we must travel far to the east, which is the conclusion that they already had. And but also the statue was an encasement, an imprisonment for Lord Gulk, and we must find a way to free him. And so yeah, I was like, Lady Roella and Sir Zeratul, you are sorcerers. Is there a way that you may unravel the enchantment that binds Lord Gulk? And they're like, possibly. We'd have to examine it. I'm like, we will do so. And so we started to head back. And we pretty much, we just walked over the corpse of Bone Crusher. Well. His last words before he died was like, I should have been a teacher. Mr. Bone Crusher, you would have been a good teacher. Yeah. So we headed back to Gold Lake. Nothing really happened. We arrive at the front gates. And we speak to the guard there at the front, who asked about the Knoll stuff. And we're like, the main group must have slipped away. We believe to a temple to the far east, Temple of Garuda, and we'll be heading there. And so the guard's like, oh, so you'll be taking the path, the tunnel under the mountains. And Senneth is like, yeah. And I looked at the map that Ren put up, so I was looking at it during this conversation, and I noticed that it would have been much quicker to go by water, to go by the sea. And I was about to say something, but the guard said it first. He's like, there would be the sea route, but as of late, there has been some incidents which are preventing any of our ships from traveling too far to the east. And so I'm like, what kind of incidents? And he says, some sort of large sea creature has been assailing our vessels. And I laughed out loud as soon as he said it. Because I feel like Ren knew exactly what was going to happen here. And so I say, my friends, it is our duty as servants of Artemis to defeat this sea creature and free up the routes, so that the people of Gold Lake may thrive once again. And so here we had a bit of a lengthy conversation, actually, and I really like it. I'm not used to having these kind of lengthy role-playing conversations, but this conversation and the results of it, I feel, are almost unprecedented. Ovum, they could not convince me otherwise, because that's how I am. We are going to sea, and we are going to defeat this creature. That's what's going to happen. It's just who comes with Ovum. Ziggy decided that he's going to go with Ovum, because he's kind of very curious about these, prophetic visions and stuff like that Ovum is having about this new god and all that. So he's very curious about it, and he's interested in maybe dealing with this enchantment around this statue or so on. So he decided he's going to go with Ovum. Roella, on the other hand, wants nothing to do with this. And again, I really have to commend her. For a first-time D&D'er, I mean, I've played with people who their first time D&D playing D&D. They just sit there and they don't really say much, and they just go along with everything that the group says, which is generally me. And I mean, that's fine. I don't expect much from a first time player, which is why I'm really impressed with her. She's willing to split the group up, and not just you go this way, I'll go this way, we'll meet up later. No. Let's split up across the country. That's huge. Really bold. I love it. I approve so much. But that's unprecedented. We've never had that big of a split up, ever. Ziggy messaged me privately. He's like, this is crazy. This cannot happen. And I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah, that's not that big of a split up has never happened, because that's a DM nightmare. One group going across the sea to fight a legendary sea creature, the other going through a tunnel under the mountains. Like, literally, you have to have 2 different sessions, because you can't combine that shit. That's insane. So there's a reason it's unprecedented and it's never happened with us, but I want to see it happen because that's so cool. So yeah, we had a lengthy conversation where Roella and I were both firmly set in our ways. Seneth, I don't know if he really chimed in. I think he was definitely in Roella's camp. He was trying to convince me. They were both trying to convince. They were trying to use Artemis against me. They were like, Artemis wants you to get to the stone as soon as possible, and how are you going to go out of your way to fight this sea creature? And, I'm just like, the sea route is technically faster. And defeating the sea creature is a bonus for the good of, mankind, I guess. Humanity, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'm a servant of Artemis. I'm doing what he asks. But I also have to be good. I can't just... Oh, there's some bad shit going on over there, but I'm doing this, so good luck with that. I gotta go do this stuff. So you go rape and pillage shit, because that'll be cool. Like, I gotta still do good stuff. And I threw down the classic quote. I was like, I paraphrased, I think, but I was like, all it takes for evil to thrive is for good men to stand by and do nothing. And really, that's what it would be. Like, this sea creature is just fucking up trade routes along the sea, and we're just going to be like, oh yeah, we're too busy for that. No, Ovum ain't too busy for that. So yeah, I was like, you're not going to convince me. It's not going to happen. So then Benny showed up. I don't know where he was. And so we got to talking again. And eventually the topic of the orb came up. And so he found out that we had the orb. And so he started kind of explaining it, but he was very cryptic. And I was just waiting for him to say some key words. And he finally said it near the end of the conversation. He said it possesses like some immense power, something like that, but it's chaotic. He said something like that. And all I needed to hear was the word power. Because I was like, could this orb unravel the encasement of Lord Golk? And I just hear Ren laughing. I'm like, yes. He's like, it's possible, but there might be side effects. I'm like, Artemis will protect us from any unfortunate mishaps. He's like, I can give it a try. And so he gives it a try. He rolls the D10,000, and nothing happens. But he's like, if you wish it, take this orb, and you can free Lord Golk. And so I took the orb and I said my wish. I was like, I wish by the power of this orb that Lord Golk be freed from his metal imprisonment. And it glowed for a little while, and then we heard sounds coming from the crate, and so I opened it up, and sure enough, boom, Golk. He's here. And so I immediately bent a knee and, oh, Lord Golk! He's like, hi! How did you know my name? And I'm just like, I am a servant of Lord Artemis. And he just grinned, and he's like, oh, all right. And I was glad. Because he may have pulled the thing where, Gulk doesn't know anything, or he doesn't know who Artemis is, or, you know, whatever. It could have been all sorts of things, but he recognized it, or at least he pretended to, so it could just be Nyarlathotep. I don't know, man. I don't know. But he at least pretended to know Lord Artemis, and I was glad. And so then he's like, I'm hungry. And so he just started walking off towards the town. And I just like, of course, you must be famished. And so I chased after him. And so everyone else, of course, came with. Because Roella wants the orb back. Because she thinks it belongs to her, I guess, at some point. But now it's a divine relic. Because it freed Lord Gulk from imprisonment. This is, you're not going to take this from Ovum. It's not going to happen. Good luck, sister. So we all went to the inn. He ordered immense amounts of food, like Goku or something, and he just started mowing down. And of course, Ovum will pay for it. And Ovum ate as well because he'd been kind of, you know, adventuring all night. He's probably starving, but I was like, Ovum eats at a different table than Lord Gulk, of course. And so everybody but Roella ate, and so we all had to roll a D2. Afterwards, we all rolled a 2. All 3 of us. And we all vomited. Because apparently the orb effect that we got was the party has a 50% chance after eating to vomit. Fucking terrible. The party. The party. So the only way out of this, Roella thought she was safe because she didn't eat. But it's not a one-time thing. This is forever. So the only way out of this is if you die. Then you get in a new character who's not part of that curse. But from now on, whenever we eat, 50% chance to vomit, which is terrible. That's freaking bulimia. But yeah, that's where we ended off. I'm certain the next session will be very exciting. Because hopefully we'll have Mert back, and so I don't know where his character went off to. I'm not even sure. His character was there when we were talking to the guys in the cage at the Knoll camp. And he went around, he was slaughtering the gnolls and butchering them, their corpses. And then we looked and he was just gone. And we have no idea where he went. So, Ren's going to have to come up with some explanation of where he is. And then he's going to have to come back in and agree to follow us. Which, of course he will, because he's Mert. He's not that type of person. Because it's just like, the gnolls are in the temples of the Far East. You must go with us. But we're going to go through the sea and fight a big sea creature first. I hope that's okay. Sure. So yeah, I didn't hit level 3. I was really bummed. I'm 200 XP away. If I had killed the owlbear, it would have been done. It would have been done, man. Damn. Next time, for sure. I'd like to hit level 3 before I fight the sea creature, but I don't think that's going to be an option. Because I want to put my vow of enmity on it. But yeah, that was a fun session. There was a lot of good moments there. Yeah, I'm enjoying the campaign so far. Because I like playing as Ovum. But, you know, Ovum will die. There is such a slim chance of Ovum making it to the end of this campaign. Because he is not the type of character that makes it to the end. There's only one character that I play that has that kind of longevity, and that's Artemis. Because I play him intelligently. I use all my knowledge of D&D and how it works, and I use it correctly. Every other character I play, it's just like, how can I fuck everything up? So Artemis is the only character that really has that survivability. But yeah, Ovum will die at some point, and the next character I have in mind will be completely different. He'll be original, and he'll be hilarious. But that's for another time. So yeah, it's good campaign so far. I'm looking forward to fighting this Kraken or whatever it is. White dragon. I don't know what it'll be. Giant octopus, sure. But yeah, that is for perhaps next week. We have Gulk in the party now, so oh boy. Ovum and Gulk, so Ovum does everything that Lord Gulk says, which is great. Just great. Ren might have Lord Gulk split, like as in he'll leave. I'm not sure if he'll do that. That's a possibility. I could definitely see like Gulk saying, I have duties to attend to, like Gandalf or something. I will meet you at the temple, or something like that. I could see that happening. But you never know. Gulk might just be our travel companion. But, yeah. We will find out next week. So, my name is Mang. This has been Roll Manging for our 5th edition campaign. And I'll see you fine folks next week.